Hi. I'm just going to start. My name is Maria, and I am here to talk to you about user testing. Well, not exactly user testing, but more the before and after of user testing. First, a short introduction. My name is Maria. I work as a UX designer at a company called Inventus, a product development and design company with both physical and digital products, but I specialize in the digital world. I'm going to start with a quote. This is a quote by Wea Loranger. She is a VP at the Nielsen Norman Group and a user experience expert. She says, one thing that is common for all user research, that even though the basic methods are easy, if you jump into a study without proper preparation, you won't get nearly as high a reward on your research investment. And that's what I want to talk about today. As a designer and consultant for almost a decade now, I know that especially preparation and documentation is something that often can get rushed through or sometimes even skipped. And that is true for many areas and also for user testing. So what I want to talk about today is just the steps that goes into the preparation and the afterwork, and maybe give some extra steps that you didn't know about, or some motivation or reminders of things that should be doing when you're talking to users. Because with a little more time comes a lot more value. I'm going to start with the preparation for user testing. This is everything you do before you conduct the actual tests. So the first thing is starting with your goals. Think about why you're doing the user testing and actually having a conscious decision of what you want to test and why you want to test it. It can be that you have a new feature that you want to see how it works, or that you have some user stories that you want to test, or you want to see how long it takes for a user to reach a certain goal on in your solution. And when you have that thought of what you want to test and what you want to know, then think about what would be an acceptable outcome. When you do the testing, what do you want to happen and what is acceptable that happens? Think about this before you do the test, not only after. And use these two things to write down clear goals for the user testing. And these goals you can take with you throughout the entire process of the tests. And then, when you've done this, you start working. This is actually the start of making a test plan. This test plan is based on the goals that you have set for yourself, and it's all the preparation that should go into the tests before you conduct them. So the first thing is have a conscious decision about the users that you are talking to. Why are you picking these users? Are they part of a specific user group, or are you testing on multiple user groups? You can have 5 people from a similar user group, and you'll have a good overview of those users. If you are testing from multiple user groups that differentiate from each other, 2 to 5 people per user group is a good way to go. And then you start writing your introduction down. This is where you welcome the user and make a decision of what the user should know before they do the test. Writing this down and having it same for everyone, make sure that everyone gets the exact same information before you conduct the tests. Then you have the test tasks that the user is going to go through. When you have written those down, make sure to go back to your goals. It's really easy to start making the test and feeling like you have a good overview of what you're going to test, and then coming out on the other end and summarizing and realizing that you actually didn't get answers to everything you wanted. So especially if you are looking out for something specific, look at your test tasks. Are they aligning with your goals, or are you missing something? The next thing is defining the criteria for passing the tests. This is your system that is passing or failing, not the user, but you're defining what criteria they need to go through to pass. It should be something that is relatively measurable, either in performance or satisfaction, because these two things are different usability metrics. But it can be time, amount of clicks, a certain flow, something that you want them to see or something that you want them to do. And then you are planning the logistics. Think about the things that are happening on the day. Where are the tests being conducted? Is the user coming to you? Is someone greeting them? Do you need any tools? Write everything down and have it ready so everything runs smoothly on the day. Is someone observing the user tests? Get your whole team to observe in on user tests. Or get your team involved in user testing. Make sure that one person is not just watching one test, but if you are joining in as an observer, you're watching multiple tests. It's really easy to get a bias towards the errors and findings from one test if you only did one. So make sure everyone is seeing multiple tests. And then give the observers information about what they are actually observing. They need to know the test tasks and the criteria for passing. They need to know what they are looking for, and they need to know if there's something that they need to do. Like if you are counting clicks, if they are taking time for a task completion, or if they are noting down the user flow that the user takes while running through the tests. Making an observational sheet that makes it easy for the observer to note down will make sure that everyone has somewhat similar notes when you go to summarize. The next thing you do is test the test. This is actually one of the simplest steps and the one that very often gets skipped. Because it's a test that you can just test on anyone. It can be a colleague, it can be almost the wall. You're just wanting to say things out loud, check if things make sense, if something is missing, if something is not. Because it's always a bad idea to test your test with your first actual user and use that to get out the kinks. So, now you run your test. And then, immediately, when you're done with your test, you summarize. This is also common that gets forgotten about. Or we do summarize, but we wait until the end of all the tests to summarize. Make sure that you're giving time for summarizing after each test. If you have more than one test during the day, make sure that you have time to summarize between each and every test. Observer and a facilitator together, talking about the pain points, the possibilities, and the positives, and talking about what is the main findings. It will get harder and harder to know and remember what happened where, the more tests you do. And don't let your memory skew your findings. When you have done all your tests and all your summary, this is when you start comparing the findings. You're looking for things that are repeating. Making big changes to your system based on feedback from one person is very often not the best idea. So look at what is actually going again and what is not aligning with the goals you set. If your task and your goals are well aligned, the repeating errors should take top priority. And then you document. Here, We also have a tendency to document the findings and what needs to be done, but forget to document the process and forget to document the context. So we say, this was bad, do this, but we don't say why. So when you're going back to it and trying to remember, there is no longer any documentation. You just find texts with conclusions, but no data behind it. So save everything with your documentation. Also, save your forms and your goals and your questions and your feedback so that it can be reused. This is also very, very good when someone new joins the team, if it be a designer or a programmer or anyone else. They can get context of why things have been done before and why the team has made the decisions that they made before. And also, the next time you test, you have a lot of the groundwork already done. And then you update. You do those updates based on your findings, based on the goals you've set, and then you test again. Look at it as a way to validate the changes you've made. If you run the exact same tests, the exact same way, with new people, and look at the metrics this time, you can actually get conclusions to see if the changes that you made actually worked and that you just didn't do it differently this time. Of course, all tests don't have to be like this or take this much time, but really, when you have done this once, most of the groundwork is already done, and it will be easier to do the bigger tests and get more value out of the testing that you're doing when you are taking the time of booking your users and getting them to test your systems. And then what? Documentation is only valuable if it's used. So make sure that you have your documentation everywhere, somewhere people know where it is. Share it with the team, share results with the organization, and have things where it's easily accessible, and go back to it. Go back to it when you're discussing, go back to it when you are deciding what to do further on, and have it as something that is part of your development process. So these are some easy steps that often get overlooked. And even though you're not doing the user testing yourself, I hope this is some good pointers to go back to your team with, asking to be a part of observation, asking for observation sheets if you're doing that, and just getting a little more value of your user tests. So thank you for having me, and thank you for coming.